I have to go downstairs. Has Jackie started live streaming? Let me just see. Hold on. Maybe she hasn't started it yet.
Hey, Chris.
Oh,
Augustine.
Hey, you're all good from our conversation before. We're not live streaming yet. She just started at 4:08. So 4:08, she just started now. So I'll just tell her. So we haven't been live streaming. Yes.
Hey, Chris. Augustine, could you enable so Sean and I could share our screen? We've got a number of documents that are queued, so we can go through them.
Ken, sure. Susan's saying no still.
So I just told her yes, so give it a minute.
Okay.
There may be a small delay to posting on YouTube.
Okay.
Michael, do you see us on live streaming now, Michael?
I'm going to right now to check to see how things are looking.
Dan, are you able to share your screen now?
Let me look. Yes.
Okay, so should we convene the meeting?
Now, hold on. Let's find out once we're live streaming. So okay. we could all talk about it. Let's all talk about our hair and how we look again. We have a couple minutes. No, I'm joking.
You're just
we're
my hair's still dark.
We're live streaming, Michael?
Yeah, we're on.
Okay, so we're live streaming. So yes,
So,
go ahead.
So just for those, if I'm sorry, Ken, just for those, for those that may be trying to watch, although if it's not live streaming, if they're not in the right spot, they don't know how they would be able to follow these directions. But if you go to our YouTube channel, you're going to click on videos on the top portion of the menu bar, and that's how you'll be able to access the live stream.
Okay, well, I have one viewer who is saying that she is engaged and watching, and I have our board president who has no exclamation point not seeing it. So just want to, Michael, I don't know if you want to reach out to Susan or something. She's asking.
Yeah, I can send an email to Susan if that would be helpful of how you would actually navigate to the area of the YouTube channel where you would access the stream. But I can see 9 people are watching now, right. So it is live.
Okay, so I would like to convene the meeting. Welcome everyone to the April 21st, 2020 curriculum committee meeting via Zoom. So this is a virtual curriculum committee meeting. We have a jam-packed agenda. So we're going to move through lots of items quickly, and we'll loop back as much as we can. But I just want to keep things moving because we do have an awful lot to cover since our March meeting was canceled due to the coronavirus situation. So first item on the agenda is the approval of the February 18th, 2020 Curriculum Committee meeting minutes. I didn't see any problems with them. Anyone else have any comments? Okay, seeing none. The February minutes can stand as written. And that brings us to our next item on the agenda, which is typically the administrative remarks. I don't see that item. Do you want to go right into the action items, Dan?
Yeah, one of the things I'll say is I'll keep this brief because I do know we have a robust agenda. I would just like to thank our teachers and students, parents, our support staff, and our administrators for all the hard work, and our school board for the support during this challenging time in education. We're really excited with some of the things we're going to be sharing with you guys tonight that are taking place, and also some of the new plans that we'll have in place. And so I just want to extend my thanks to everybody because I know it's been a stressful time. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know all the administrators have really been working almost 24/7 at the beginning. So we want to extend our thanks to you as a district for getting all of this up and running in record speed. That brings us to
Lydia. Can I just jump in, just interrupt? And we do have an opportunity for public comment. Michael Petiti will handle public comment, and then also I just want to jump in for Michael and Byron. Are you seeing it streaming live? I'm also getting a couple of texts that people are having trouble finding it streaming live. So Michael and Byron, can you just repeat again where it is people find our meeting streaming live right now? I just got a text from an email from a parent said they're looking for it and they can't find it on YouTube.
Yes, so again, we have 20 people watching now, so it is live.
Good.
The way to access it is to go to our website currently, and you'll see the homepage. There's a button that says video committee meetings now streaming live, and you can click that button, and then it will take you directly to the video section of the YouTube channel where you can click on the streaming thumbnail, and that will show you us.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any public comment? Are we?
At this time, we have none, at least from that I've received through email.
Okay, thank you. All right, so does that bring us to item 4.1, the board action items? Mr. Bechtel?
Yes, that brings us to 4.1, and I'm going to go ahead and enable screen share. One of the things that we looked at last week was, I'm hearing an echo, so somebody I think has their mic live. One of the things we looked at last week was the special education plan, and this was actually presented by Mrs. Lesage, and we're fortunate enough to have her here. So she went through a PowerPoint and explained the special education plan that the district is required to put out every 3 years. So at this time, this is a consent agenda item. If there are any questions regarding the special education plan or any follow-up questions regarding the PowerPoint that we went through last week, we're happy to go ahead and have Mrs. Lesage respond to those questions.
Okay, does anyone on the committee have any questions regarding the special ed plan? I think people had an opportunity to see it previously and ask questions. It looks like we might be okay.
Okay, so just moving forward to let everyone know, what we'll do is we'll be able to post this. It'll be posted for 1 month. And then at that point, we'll be able to send it to PDE. Typically, these are due on May 1st. However, because of the COVID crisis, they have allowed us to go through to June 15th. But either way, we're going to be more than okay and have this ready to go to PDE in plenty of time.
Jenny, can I just ask one quick question, just with respect to all the changes in how you've had to operate. Are you still on track, do you think, to be able to start implementing this plan in July? Is there anything additional in terms of resources or help you need to be able to go live?
So the special ed plan, the way it's written in here, there's a lot of pieces of it that are not able to be done as we are not all together. Okay. And that's why, and I think Mr. Bechtel is going to talk about this a little bit later and just put a piece in. We've done a continuum of education plan that we're going to discuss. That's going to be in place. And then when we are finally fully operational and back in our buildings, the special ed plan as written here will be put in place.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
All right.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So the only other thing that we've got on the consent agenda would be the a gift grant or donation. The Radner High School would like to thank the PTO for a donation of a camera for our yearbook club, and we would ask the curriculum committee to move this forward for acceptance by the full board at the April meeting.
I had a question about the grant, but I don't want to go before anybody else is ready if they have a question.
Go ahead, Amy.
So question number 2 on the grant application talks about any additional funding requests. And I was curious, given that it seems like it's a significant piece of equipment, is there anything having to do with insurance or warranty for this that might be an ongoing cost? and who would absorb that? And number two, I was just curious who actually will own the camera. If the PTO is purchasing it, who owns it?
So when we receive a grant, gift, or donation from a PTO or from somebody in the community, once the board accepts it, it becomes property of the district. As far as a warranty, that's something that I could follow up on. I'm not sure if there's a warranty that comes with it or not, but I could certainly look into that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I think it's really important to always recognize the PTOs, the PTSA, the contribution from the community towards the education of our students. So I want to extend thank you on behalf of the students and the board, really, for this donation. Is there anything else? Committee members, are you all in agreement of putting forth these two items to the business agenda next week? Great. I will take that as we're in agreement. And let's move on to the Continuum of Education Plan, or continuity of education plan, excuse me.
Excuse me, 1 second, Lydia, procedurally, what is easier for you since you're going to be looking for consent from us? Would you like us to nod, raise our hands, give you a verbal? Just operationally, what would be helpful?
Honestly, silence is golden. So if you don't say anything, you're good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we've got a number of documents that I will pull up here and screen share, and then we'll have different people that will jump in and speak to these various documents. So the districts across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania were asked to complete a continuity of education plan and submit that to PDE. There are specific aspects of the plan that are stock for all districts. And those things are, how are you communicating with your parents and your students, and how are you ensuring that your students all have access, equal access, and how are you taking care of students that are maybe in need of services like free and reduced lunch and a variety of different things. They have us hit specific subgroups such as EL, special ed, and gifted. They have us explain attendance and accountability. And so this is a robust document that the district put together that will be posted on our website. One of the things that we did to try to streamline this is create an executive summary that was a more glossy,
representation.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, a glossy representation or executive summary of what the larger document is. And this really is for our community if they don't want to wade through a 10, 11 page document. And it highlights the key points of this. A lot of this information was culled from our website. There's been a ton of work that's gone into really getting Radner up and running. And so we were fortunate because when you go into the district website and you go over to extended closure, we really have had a ton of different resources that have been placed on here for families about being able to manage stress and having a whole bunch of different things that they can get FAQs and stuff like that. So one of the things that we did when we created the Continuity of Education Plan is we were able to pull all this information together, put it into a concise document, and really show off some of the things that we've been doing as a district to try to meet our students' needs and where we're going to go in the future. One of the things that I talked about is the fact that we had to hit on specific subgroups, and that was a requirement of the Continuity of Education Plan. And so I'm going to turn this over to Mrs. Lesage, who's going to speak a little bit about what we're doing to meet the needs of some of our students that are special education and gifted students as well.
There. So we definitely looked at this in my department, and I'll start with the gifted education. one of the things we did is we reached out to our teachers of the gifted learner, and we worked with them in regards to how they would continue to support their students involved in the online education, and how they continue to enrich that learning to the best of their ability in these, trying times. Obviously, through everything we've done, we continue to support them with technology and trainings to be able to reach out to all of these students. And they do so with working with the general education teachers with that curriculum as they did prior. With regards to our special education plan that we came up with, and I don't know if you can share this or not, Dan, thank you. So when this all started, when this all started to occur, one of the things that we came up with, George and I realized that the IEP documents that we had were not going to be able to be realized in the situation that we found ourselves, which is the online virtual learning. And because of that, we worked very quickly coming up with what we called the COVID-19 Interim Individualized Education or Emergency Special Education Plan. And that's the document that you see in front of you right now. This particular document just has the wording of exactly how this all transpired going back to January 30th. And can you bring it down a little bit, Dan? Thank you. And then the big piece of it was we realized there were two sections of the IEP that we really needed to address. The first section is what were the services that we were providing and in what areas? The reading, the writing, the math, social, emotional, executive functioning, speech and language, occupational therapy, whatever we were doing for the students, our teachers, the special education teachers, the case managers would be putting that information inside there if it was directly linked to a student. Then we come up with the specially designed instruction. This is the area of our IEPs that helps us make sure that our students can get the curriculum. So this was a little bit trickier for our teachers. They did an awesome job. We put the first statement in there because obviously, based off of everything we know, it is very difficult to work with students that have special needs in a remote location under these circumstances. So we do put that in there, like making everyone aware that we are aware of these issues. But one of the things that we decided to do was just have our teachers look at the child's SDIs that they currently have in their IEP and figure out which ones, could be a lot, it could be 4 or 5, it could have been many, many, they need in order to access the curriculum. These were sent out to our parents, I believe, starting the Friday before we went on our spring break and following through to the Wednesday after we returned. So all of the parents have these documents now. We've asked the parents to work with their child. We're working with them. We reach out, our case managers reach out at least once a week and ask the parents how it's going. And these documents are fluid, just like our IEPs are, and we will be making adjustments to them as we move forward. So it was a huge undertaking. Our special ed teachers, really rose to the occasion and did an awesome job fulfilling this requirement and really working with all of their children's parents and making sure that we are able to continue to give them the best services we possibly can in this remote situation. So that was the COVID interim plan that we worked on and are continuing to work on.
Thank you. Before we jump into elementary and secondary, because I know that Mr. Dukevich and myself are going to jump into some specifics about things that are coming up and what's been taking place at the elementary and secondary level, do we have anybody from the board that would want to ask? Would it be okay, Mrs. Solomon, if we had anybody ask questions to Mrs. Lesage at this time?
Yeah, I think this is the time. Does anyone have anything they'd like to know about the IEP process and what we can and can't provide at the moment? And I take that as we're good to go.
Well, I have a question.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
waiting for other people. I don't want to jump in if anybody
Go
else
ahead,
has a question.
Amy.
Do you have, Jenny, do you have a sense of how things are going, not going, what resources are in good shape, what you might need, that kind of thing?
Sure. So we've really been able to provide pretty much everything that they had before. It's just being delivered differently, which does cause certain concerns. So we are still providing our social emotional learning. We're still providing our mental health counselors working and reaching out to their students, to their caseload that they have. We are providing reading instruction, we're providing math, writing. So we are doing all of those things. I just think it's been a really different time. And it's making people realize, honestly, I think it's making us all better in the long run to be teachers and to be working with the students. But it can be difficult not having the student right in front of you when you're trying to provide the services, that you're providing. And we have a lot more responsibility is being put in the home to help provide the environment that we're able to come into and work with the students. So it's all around. Our parents are stepping up to this, and our teachers have, as well as all of our outside providers, speech and language, occupational therapists, and so forth. But it's been quite an undertaking, and it continues to evolve.
Are the paraprofessionals involved in delivering the instruction too, in some capacity?
So sure, that's a great question. So just this week, we've really started to roll that out. I believe an email is going out tomorrow where we're going to really put our paraprofessionals back to work, working directly with students and also helping provide as a resource for our learning support teachers and the general ed teachers for students that may need it in their classes. So we've also put a big plan in place, and Mr. Budabal did a lot of this. He gathered up all the information of the paraeducators, and they're all divvied out to have kind of home bases. In other words, every paraeducator will have a teacher, a learning support teacher that is their teacher, that they start working with that person to be able to provide these services. We have trainings that we've already lined up from our behavior specialists, some of our emotional support teachers, and our inclusion coach that are going to work with our paraeducators to provide them some training and technology. I forgot that piece because we had to really assist them, and Byron's off right now, but a lot of technology devices have been deployed to our paraeducators, and of course, training in all the different things that we're utilizing now is going to continue to happen for the next few weeks. And I think as our plan goes, it's like the first week in May, I really think a lot of that training will be done. But we have paraeducators now that know how to provide the services, and will possibly be working directly with students as quickly as the end of this week.
And one of the things that I think we're gonna all hear tonight is one of the themes is continual improvement. We're continuing to get feedback. We're continuing to talk to our teachers, to talk to our students, our parents, and look towards continual improvement. One of the aspects that Jenny just highlighted, goes to one of the challenges we've faced. We need to remove the roadblocks. So we want our paras to be able to support our kids. Our paras want to support our kids. It's a great article or picture in the newspaper a week ago, one of our paras from Wayne Elementary driving around to the households of kids and just waving, just driving by and waving. They're eager to have those connections with the kids, but we needed to get them technology. So one of the ways we're getting the paras technology and getting them training is as we're handing out new devices to our teachers, at the middle school. And as our teachers are getting these new devices, some of those other devices we're getting back are being turned around and given to our paras, and we're training our paras so now they can get online and can support our kids as well. So one of the things you're going to just continually hear tonight is that there is a progression of trying to remove the roadblocks, to identify how we can improve, to evaluate what we're doing, whether it's working well or not, and how do we continually as an organization continually improve. And I just want to take a moment to thank Jenny. When we talk about the special education, Jenny and George really were out in the forefront of, willingness to go online, willingness to tackle the challenges of what does this look like. Districts across this country, there's been many articles written now about districts across the country that held up and waited because they were just understandably concerned about how do you go online and how do you meet the needs of all of your students. And Jenny and George's attitude, as well as our legal group and our parents, have been, no, let's do it, let's do this, let's do the best we can, and let's continually focus on improving. And I just want to thank Jenny for that can-do attitude and that continual improvement, and for the teachers that have been that as well has been truly phenomenal.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I guess my only remaining question about that is, and thank you all, I'm trying to catch up here on how this is a lot for everybody to absorb, I think, including all of you, because this is a quickly changing world every minute, it seems like. But is there some thought about the modalities in which special education students are taught relative maybe to the general population? There may be no difference, but I'm just wondering if you're looking at it that way. Is, for example, synchronous learning more helpful in terms of delivering some of the supports that special education students need in a way that's different perhaps from some other segments of the population? And are there other technologies
I definitely
out there? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Like, the phone is ringing. It's just...
I definitely, my belief always has been, special ed, regular ed, it really doesn't matter. Every child has a different learning profile. So, and every lesson can be provided in many different ways. And it just depends. You can have a room of 20 kids and you're working with one, somebody else is working on a worksheet by themselves. They're getting it their way. This kid needs you standing there. So all of our teachers need to be doing it all different ways. They need to provide that worksheet, independent learning. A lot of students like that. They need to be live. Our kids, we all need to be live with each other because this is very isolating. So that really does help. And also the videotaping of lessons is awesome because you can go back and watch and watch and watch if you didn't get it the first time. So I really believe if everyone's using all three, we're going to meet the needs of the students the best we can. The piece that we're missing that we can't replace is that really personal, you're right there, literally touching the kid, just really being a part of what's going on in their life. We can't help that, but that's where being live, that's as good as we can get right now, and we'll take it. And we're going to be fine with it, and just moving forward, waiting for us to be able to open up and be able to be all together again. But you're right, Amy, you just don't know. You don't know what's going to work with any student because we've never done this before. And it's interesting, some of our parents are loving us to be live with their children, and some of our parents are saying, please no. Like, I have 100 other things to go on, and if you're telling me it has to happen at 10, they're going to watch it videotape later because I've got 3 other kids, and so we're trying to be very accommodating. And I know the learning support teachers that I have seen some of the things they've done, it's amazing. It really is.
Great, thank you. I appreciate your entertaining those questions. It's a whole new world for all of us, and it's hard to know, especially if you're not actually the boots on the ground in it. So thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you, Amy.
All right, so Ken gave us a great segue. Thank you, Jenny, I appreciate that. Ken gave us a great segue as far as continuous improvement. So Sean and I are going to go through some of the things that are going to be coming for the elementary and the secondary level. And so I will turn this over at this time to Mr. Dukevich to go ahead and talk through that.
Thanks, Dan, and good afternoon, everybody. What I'm going to be sharing today will represent the elementary learning guidelines. But if you think of that continuity of education plan that Dan started with, think of that as the overarching component to our online program. And then these are the smaller guidelines that will help not only outline expectations for teachers, but for students and parents as well. And as been mentioned now a few times, this has been a very accelerated continuous improvement process. You know, typically in a continuous improvement process, you have the benefit of time and thought, reflection, data, and all the variables that go into a process. This has been a continuous improvement on steroids, so to speak. Which is fine, and we're looking tomorrow at, I think, day 20 that will be online from March 19th to tomorrow. It's 20 days that will have officially been online with instruction. At the elementary setting, just speaking on their behalf, I want to start by just thanking the teachers are working incredibly hard. They're always looking to overcome the challenges that we're facing, and they're just putting in an incredible amount of time and effort to meet the needs of their students. So I want to thank the teachers and the building principals. They're doing just incredible work. So looking here at our elementary guidelines, in the dark gray box at the top, this just highlights, again, these are expectations for daily and weekly learning lessons online, and just captures that the Schoology Learning Management System is our primary vehicle for delivering instruction, although other supplementary things like Nearpod and Flipgrid, these are other services that might be integrated into Schoology. Schoology is our learning platform for K-12. And then just another almost disclaimer, so to speak, is we ask parents just to be patient, and we're working and growing daily on this, and teachers are learning so much. And at the end of this, and I think Jenny mentioned this earlier, we're going to be better educators when we get through this process because we are learning so much. And although it's been challenging, most times things that are this challenging come with great rewards in the end. So if you scroll down just a little bit here, Dan, the top half of the sheet just captures actually, could you go back up a little bit? Sorry. Our daily schedule. You can see essentially we're asking that teachers have their lessons posted on Schoology by 9 a.m. each morning. Each lesson or day will include a morning message that could be recorded live video, that could be in written form, or it could be done live as a kind of morning meeting session. Then each lesson daily, students will receive a math lesson, a reading lesson, a writing lesson, and science and social studies will be done once a week, and word study once a week. And we're also asking to integrate a synchronous lesson in the week. And that session could be any number of things. So the lesson will include a number of factors, just like a typical lesson in the classroom. Of course, as you know, collaboration and catch-up day on Wednesdays are meant for students to balance their work, their personal wellness, and to access teachers for office hours twice a day. And teachers are doing professional development during that time and using that time for planning. As I mentioned, the interaction piece, something that's new, is that we're working to add a live component daily, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday for elementary. And due to the dynamic of an elementary classroom where there's typically one classroom teacher, of course, that it's not a scheduled time. Really, we've given that autonomy to teachers to schedule with their families to see what best time works for them in their home. If you scroll down, the Monday to Friday perspective just gives you an overview of what that looks like. And what we tried to do with social studies and science is integrate it into reading and writing as much as possible. So there's a lot of connectivity between those things. And word study would be things like vocabulary and spelling, just to give you an idea. If you move down a little further here, the time guidelines, these are based again on those components, morning message, reading, writing, math, etc., the number of days per week, and approximate number of minutes per day. We have a range here. Certainly we're gonna add extension time, extension opportunities for kids to go beyond these minutes. But looking at the current research and what other districts are doing, and essentially what we've been doing and what our teachers are reporting as a fair and just right amount of time, we feel like these minutes capture just that. And these guidelines actually were adopted, or not, I shouldn't say adopted, created and refined through a multi-tiered process. Included myself, Dr. Kearney, our assistant director, our elementary principals, our elementary coaches, our Schoology support team, and then finally our department teams at each elementary. So have had a number of layers to get to this point. If you can scroll down to the second page there, Dan. The top box just really captures a summary of what Jenny kind of shared with respect to special education, but our other special services such as English language development support, Title I support, reading support, we're also working with the case managers and our reading specialists and those who typically support students in small group to continue to do that, to reach out to families, to reach out to their children, to provide instruction, different methods, asynchronous and synchronous methods, to reach those children and provide them the support services that they need. And then moving down a little bit further, this is also new. Actually, can you go back up? Sorry, Dan. The K-5 specials, we're situating the specials between the three buildings on specific days of the week. So previously, a homeroom section may have music on Monday, PE on Tuesday, where another classroom obviously would have different specials on different days. What we're hearing from parents is that if a family has 3 or more children, they're trying to manage 3 or more specials and different supplies and different things that require that. So we're trying to organize it on one day so all music would happen K-5 on Monday. Now, although the lessons will look different based on the grade level, there's kind of a theme for the day so parents can plan around that. So Tuesdays will always be around library resources, Wednesdays PE, Thursdays wellness, and Friday art. And that way we're trying to make it more practical and approachable for parents when we're trying to manage so many other things. On the right side of this second page, we're looking at grading and progress report. So we outline with our teachers formative assessment feedback that we're requiring, and teachers will be collecting artifacts. And by mean artifacts, it could be posted pictures, it could be workbook pages, it could be discussion groups, it could be all kinds of things. And we're asking that teachers provide feedback to students on at least one artifact per subject each week. And all those things will funnel into a third trimester report. And looking at how we're going to issue our progress report, the current research around this pandemic and what most districts are doing is a pass or no pass. Understanding all the variables related to collecting work and trying to get an accurate assessment and a summative assessment at that. And this has again been discussed and reviewed with multiple tiers, and we feel like this is the most fair and equitable way of reporting progress in the third trimester. Finally, Dan, last time, if you could move down a little bit further, the remote learning expectations for students, this is something we outlined at the very beginning. In fact, it was with even just a few days of us going online. And they're pretty simple really for elementary, but you can see them there. We want to have them follow acceptable use policy, certainly, and our Schoology code of conduct. And then finally, this document is meant for parents. You can see that we've outlined a few links, just a reminder of where they can obtain more support, more information, and of course, their school contacts. And again, this represents the elementary component of the continuity of education plan.
Okay. Are you ready to entertain questions on this, Mr. Tkovich?
I am, Lydia. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone on the committee have anything you want to ask with regard to the elementary piece of this? Yeah, Sarah, go ahead.
I just wanted to, I appreciate, especially, I've run into parents out walking and from across the street, had conversations about how all of this is going, and I get amazing feedback on how much effort the administration is clearly putting into all of these programs. And not unexpectedly, the parents of elementary school students have said, I am the homeschooling teacher, and even if I'm not doing the teaching itself, I'm monitoring the computer and making sure they can get what they need. So I want to say that I really appreciate that you guys have taken what has clearly been a lot of feedback about how that is or isn't working, and I'm sure the parents also appreciate it. The one question I had specifically about the amount of time kids should be spending is, it seemed to me like the K through 5, the outer limit of how much time they'd be spending on schoolwork for a day was 2.5, almost 3 hours, or did I add up those columns wrong? And is that what's expected of a 5-year-old? I just feel like a home education setting is very different from school, where you have a classroom and follow the group and stay in one space and move. And
A great question, Sarah. I think what we need to do is we're really providing guidelines, and they provide parents with, they could go at the minimum or they could take it much further, and that we have extensions and opportunities. It's funny, in the course of a 6-hour school day, there's a lot of, between recess, lunch, specials, transition times, homeroom, there's a lot of time built into the day that aren't necessarily instructionally focused. So I think when you boil down to the critical components and considering all the variables in the home setting, and like you mentioned, the support that parents are needed to, especially at the primary and elementary age, these numbers we felt like represented what best practices are shared in research we found and consulted, and although there's not much out there right now, but also what other local districts have already published, and more important than that even is speaking to our own teachers and our own parents and getting feedback on how long things are taking at home, and how much they need. And I think by providing them a range of options, they can find the just right component for their students. And I know that there's been a question about covering content. A large part of our focus has been on the individual learner and trying to personalize through our classroom teachers and reaching out to parents. If you have 20 children in your classroom, we've asked teachers to reach out to those parents and find out what is working, what is not. And then on the areas that are struggles, how can we support that more? For parents who want more instruction or more access, then we provide them more opportunities and more options. For those who are completely overwhelmed, which is there is a fraction of those folks for good reason, that we've pared down some things and really tried to focus on the most critical components of the third trimester.
Okay. I appreciate, as someone who works from home and is now sharing my office with my middle school student, I appreciate that you are reaching out to parents and making sure that it's meeting their needs. Because I know we do have a lot of parents who work, and even if they're having to work from home, especially if they're having to work from home and manage that, I know it's a challenge. So thank you very much.
No, and also I just want to mention, and Ken mentioned this, we talked about continuous improvement. This is April 21st. We have 8 weeks remaining.
I counted this morning. Counted that this morning.
and with 20 days in and 40 to go, we're only a third of the way into this. So we're going to continue to grow.
Okay.
And I
had
think,
a question.
I think,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Jump in. Sean, can you help me to make sure I'm understanding this correctly and everyone is seeing this too? There is the time it takes the student, whatever grade level it is, to do the work. And that has varied before we went online. That varies, currently while we're online, that time for each individual student, it varies within my household. But then there's also the time and the opportunity that our teachers are giving for some of that face-to-face opportunities. And that's what we're trying to balance, and that's what we're trying to move forward and show. What are those opportunities also? So the opportunities for the live teacher support doesn't necessarily dictate doesn't limit the amount of work, nor does it increase the amount of work. Does that make sense, Sean, what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really finding a balance between the asynchronous and the synchronous, and the play on both of them, what meets the students' needs the most. So the synchronous component is not counted into those minutes, so to speak, but it could be in some way if a teacher were to use it for instructional purposes, or any other means, it could be part of that, but we want to find a balance between both methods.
Because I want to follow up on what you just said, Sean, because I was a little...
Amy, hold on. Sarah, you've finished with you? Okay, go ahead, Amy. Go ahead.
So just trying to, and not having the benefit of really being able to process this for too long. So for example, in morning meeting or message, you're recommending in grades K through 1 that a student spend 5 to 10 minutes, but that could be consumed by a teacher delivering a morning message if it were 5 to 10 minutes long. Am I understanding that correctly, that the time amounts could consist of interaction with the teacher as opposed, or is that more just doing it on your own beyond what the teacher is offering?
I think in a morning message, it'll mostly be either a recorded video outlining the scope of the day for the children, welcoming them, if it's live, it could be 10 minutes and maybe longer, of course, and that's where they're engaging with the students live. But having a recorded and written message gives students context for whenever they get on and log on and check things out. That may take 5 minutes, that may take 10 minutes, it may take longer. We're just trying to provide, I guess, general guidelines on what to shoot for as far as the just right component. I don't know if that
Because
answers
maybe
your
I didn't,
question.
yeah, maybe I didn't phrase it correctly. The time allocation is a suggestion for engagement with that subject overall, some of which may include when the teacher is delivering instruction, or is that separate and apart from when a teacher is delivering instruction? I guess that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, I think in some cases where if in another lesson it says 10 to 20 minutes, the actual lesson itself may be 10 minutes, and then there's another 10 or 20 minutes additional that students are practicing applying, showing an understanding of whatever that content would be. Similar to the morning message, it's going to be more social emotional focused. So it may take that 10 minutes and maybe a combination of things.
There's a little part where it says, this includes time for instruction and application and/or formative assessment. So I think that's.
Oh, yep. Sorry, Andrew, didn't scroll down and see it. Trying to juggle. I'm not a good synchronous learner, so forgive me. I'm trying to figure this out. Now that makes sense. That makes sense. And I guess, I mean, the overall philosophy here, it seems to me, and I could be way off with this, is that there's a ton of great instruction that's been going on at the elementary level, is my sense. The teachers are doing their level best to try to provide whatever they can in this crazy new world to students. But is this sort of taking all of that and putting it into more of a regimen to provide some structure and manage expectations for all concerned, but also allow for flexibility, which is undoubtedly needed given the kind of circumstances that everybody's involved with right now, that are so varied, and some of them so cumbersome, some of them less so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think all those things, Amy, and also these were developed in part with the support of teachers, giving us feedback, weighing in on all the components, and again, multiple layers of that. And it really is, we wanted to provide a blueprint, so to speak, of what we're working to do, so there's a consistency amongst all the buildings. But at the same time, we want to make sure we're personalizing this as much as we can. And that's reaching out to families, finding out what's happening in the home dynamic, supporting them. Again, maybe sometimes it's ratcheting it back, maybe sometimes it's ratcheting it up, and everything in between. So that's where we're really trying to focus on the learner, not so much the content. Obviously the content we're using to teach, but right now there's so many variables that it's really very specific to individuals. What may take one child to do 20 minutes may take another 45, or take one 15. So we're trying to manage all those things, and teachers know their kids the best, so they can differentiate too. And that's kind of what we're trying to figure out in these guidelines, and just provide a blueprint overall.
Right, and you've mentioned another 8 weeks, but we don't know what the future holds. And at some point in time, I was on a PSBA call today where someone was talking about, there's a rumor, I don't hesitate to say it, in Ohio, that things might not be resuming in the fall. We don't know. So this is also with an eye to I see you, Sarah. Yeah, I got it. But this is also, you're thinking about not just the here and now, but what might need to be in place going forward. As Ken was saying, continual improvement. This is a stepping stone for, unfortunately, what might be needed even longer term than we could have been conceived of 4 weeks ago when all of this started.
Absolutely. We've said this to staff, and they've agreed, where we are today is far different than where we were 2 weeks ago. And where we're going to be in 2 weeks from now is going to be far different than where we are today. I think it's just going to continue to evolve.
My final comment, final comment is that, I'm not a teacher. I don't have school-age children at home. I'm not an administrator, but I can sort of feel my own stress around all of this, even as I read the document. Honestly, I think it's an incredible, I think human beings by nature thrive on consistency and routine. Most of us really need be able to manage expectations and have some sort of consistency and routine. At the same time, extraordinary flexibility under any circumstances, but these COVID circumstances is absolutely essential also. But I just hope, and I've mentioned this in our last public meeting, that there is time for everybody that everybody's really patient with each other, gives each other license to understand that we have really high standards. Parents have high standards, kids have high standards of themselves, teachers have high standards of themselves, administrators have high standards of themselves. And we have to be a really forgiving community because it could, things are messy. This is uncharted territory. And I hope that we're all taking care of ourselves and building in as much self-care as we possibly can. And even, I had mentioned this to somebody, I feel like this is such an incredible social emotional learning opportunity. We are trying to embed that, it seems, in the curriculum all the time. And it's a great opportunity for adults to model for students those social emotional learning opportunities like, hey, I'm getting online here and I was scared to do it. I was afraid it was gonna look really yucky. And I'm nervous about someone hearing how I'm doing something, but I found my inner grit, and that's how I found it. And my ask of you is to be patient with me. And if I make a mistake, to work with me until I get it right. So I just wanted to put that out there because I can feel, like I said, I'm over here. You guys are in the trenches, most of you. And I can imagine that this is anxiety producing on some level, no matter what you do. And you've done gone to extraordinary lengths for everybody. I just wanted to put that out there. Maybe it's just my own blood pressure that's rising, and I salute the parents. I think what they're doing is incredible. I think the kids are doing the best they can under extraordinary stress themselves. I think the teachers and the administrators all sort of need a great big virtual hug because this is hard and it's not easy, but I salute you all and hope everybody is indulging in some good self-care and giving themselves permission to know that it's not going to be perfect. And your best try is as one of our board members said one meeting not too long ago, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And that's just it. I'm sorry, I'll get off my soapbox, but it's just all right. I'm just in awe of all of you because everybody, no matter what role you play, has taken on some extraordinary things. And I just can't help but it's really something that I think about all the time. Give you all a lot of credit.
You know what?
Thank you too, Jessie, as a student.
Yeah. Thank you, Amy, because that's a perfect segue into my question. So I'm in the middle of this on a lot of levels as a parent, as an educator, and then as a board member. And so what I've observed, my question actually is around concern for the elementary teachers, because my observation so far is in our team, I think the people taking the most stress at the moment are the elementary teachers because they typically have children of that age at home as well. And so it tends to be, they've got all these expectations on them of producing, how many videos or how many check-ins, but they also have maybe a first grader or a fourth grader at home with them. And I know some of you administrators do as well. So my concern is really, are we able to support our administrators and staff with those kind of pressures on them? Because I have noticed that on my team, those are the people taking the most stress. I think kids with high school kids, their students are more proficient in technology. So yes, of course, they still need your guidance and they need boundaries and they need your assistance and support in a different way. But I'm worried about just the time demands on an elementary teacher. So could someone on the team just address, how we're supporting the elementary age group?
And I'm sure, Lydia, it's not just the elementary teachers. A lot of our teachers have younger students at home, or even preschool students. So, all of our teachers, I think, deserve a hand, like Amy said, but are we doing enough to support them? And I know the administrators are overwhelmed. I know everyone's overwhelmed.
And not to minimize what anybody else is going through. My point more is that what the elementary teacher is trying to do also is reach out to younger children, which is sometimes more difficult than what a high school student is doing, but not to minimize anybody's work at all. And also to echo just appreciation and admiration for what you've done. But yeah, just if you could reassure us what we're doing to support our team.
Yeah, sure, Lydia. I agree. Every teaching position is a unique dynamic. So you may have older kids, but you may see a lot more of them. You know, our elementary folks see 20 kids or so, and they become, in better part of a year, really close to them and build relationships with them. What we've encouraged our elementary folks to do is really work with their teams in their schools and across the district to work smarter, not harder. So share resources, you know, take the lead on one subject where a grade level partner may take the lead on another, and they can create that content and share it out. And we said it's fine if there's a guest teacher video that, even though it's not me, it's, you know, it's Mr. Smith right across the hall, and he's going to deliver the message today and the instruction. So we've been trying to provide them with that, and also looking for ways that we can remove barriers. One example is the device deployment. So elementary staff, where the high school got new devices this year, but as part of the implementation, elementary staff had computers that not all of them had cameras. So we've worked on deploying now new devices to them. So they'll have the same access as across the board. That's taken a little bit of time, but we're actually close to being complete with that. And also supplies deployment last week, and I got to give a lot of credit to our building principals, Anthony, Nancy, and Trania, and Heather Esposito did a tremendous job. They brought in some staff. They packaged every student's desk with academic materials and deployed it. And almost 80%, around 80% per building, families picked up the supplies. So a barrier was the kids didn't have their materials in front of them, even though they might have had online access. It looks different for a kindergarten or a third grader. So now they do. So what we tried to do is minimize barriers or you know, take care of barriers so that they are more practical, and then encourage them to work together. But that doesn't take away from the work they're putting in. They're working incredibly hard and trying to figure things out. But I do feel like the guidelines we've put together have really included their voice and where we're going. And many of our staff, it does depend on your level of your home life. You know, if you have a lot of children at home, you're trying to manage all that and teach, that is different. But we do have teachers who don't have children at home, or their children are grown and not in the house anymore. So it is unique, and we need to be patient and flexible with our staff. But I think there are a lot of ways we're trying to support them.
And you know, our teachers are going through what our entire country is going through. And we have parents across the country, parents in our district, in our community, who are trying to work from home, trying to help their kids. We have people who are, you know, there's the stress level from potentially losing their jobs or already have lost their jobs. So there is a lot of stressors going on throughout the communities, you know, throughout our society. And I think we need to obviously be aware of them, but also be aware that what the structure of education and the opportunity we have within providing a structure and some consistency for our kids does for our community, and does for, you know, people in the community who are sadly, you know, potentially losing their jobs or experiencing loved ones that are affected directly by this virus. You know, there's a large role that not only our teachers are playing, our support staff, our cafeteria workers coming in and giving out food 3 days a week, our technology staff that's been actually coming into the buildings every day, pretty much, to get this technology out and continue to do this. So this is something where everyone is, back to Amy's comments, this is something that collectively everyone is facing, and collectively everyone is working together toward.
Yeah, I would just want to thank you again. I do think as human beings, predictability is something that we all need. And however that predictability looks, you know, as long as it's balanced with some flexibility, that helps, like Ken said, in a very unpredictable world. Everybody's looking to try to have, I think, some sort of order in their lives. And I salute the school district for trying to work with its staff and families to create some order out of tremendous disorder right now. And the only other thing I think is super important is that as I think about just school as an entity, one of the things that people get out of being in school as opposed to homeschooling I suppose, is that interface with the teacher. You know, seeing that teacher smile. Of course, we can't shake hands with our students at this point or hug them, but anything to bring that face, that human being, that sound, the sound of the voice to a student in any way that's reasonable, I think helps our kids. That's all part of the order and stability and the security that everybody's grasping for right now. So, you know, it's not perfect. It never will be perfect, and everybody deserves an A+ for their efforts to try to deal with something so unprecedented and so disruptive in our lifetimes. That's it. Sorry, didn't mean to be a conversation stopper. It's just, you can tell that I've been very stirred emotionally by all that's been going on, and you know, I feel for everybody, because there isn't one person in any way, in any capacity, who hasn't been impacted by this to some extent, and we're all in this together.
It's a good segue to the secondary, Dan.
I was gonna
All
say.
Thank you. So next we'll jump into the high school's live teacher support. But before we do, one of the things I've got to do is throw some kudos to the middle school teachers and administrators. They have done a tremendous amount of work, and you're not going to see the middle school plan because really we've asked them to jump directly from distributing Chromebooks to their students, to starting a brand new schedule last week, to distributing brand new Surface Goes last week, and also having teachers start training with that. Dr. Weidlich went and surveyed middle school parents to get feedback on the survey that they piloted last week. And I know he was working with teachers this week to go and look at their structure. And there's been a lot of great work that's going on at the middle school level. Dr. Weidlich we will ask him to come next week. And they've also been working on their grading as well. And so next month. And so Dr. Weidlich can come and provide an overview of the work that his team has been doing as they have been working diligently over the past 3 or so weeks to try to roll out all these devices and provide training for everybody. When we look at the high school, one of the things that we've heard from parents and students is the desire to connect with their teachers synchronously. And I really think that's a testament to the strong relationships that our teachers build with our students. So we also had teachers that jumped in last week using Big Blue Button at the secondary level, both at the high school and the middle school. And we heard from teachers that we were having conflicts just because of the number of people that were working to do live streaming with their classes. So what we did was we took that feedback and worked to create a live teacher support program for the high school. Essentially, our goals with this is to ensure that we're giving our students another level of support and help those that are struggling, and to reduce conflict between our teachers who are using Big Blue Button to stream synchronously, and ensure that we do not have conflicts among students that would have a specific teacher but be in different classes or sections. So when we went through this, one of the things we did is we started to look at what other local districts were doing and how they were structuring their synchronous learning. And there's a variety of different models out there. One of the things that we didn't want to do was to bottleneck kids, where you'd have a math teacher that would have a number of calculus students, a number of geometry students, a number of Algebra 1 students all show up at the same time because they've got a large block of time. So we really tried to be thoughtful about how we could go and resolve the teacher issues as far as eliminating conflicts from the feedback we heard, and ensure that our kids could get the support and really streamline the process for our students being able to ask their teachers questions and get help. One of the things that I think that this pandemic has told us is that workflow and having a workflow and understanding how you can easily go and move from obstacle to obstacle and problem and solve those things is something that we've got to navigate on a regular basis now. And so having set times where students and teachers can go and meet together to answer questions. That way the teachers aren't answering Schoology messages until 11 o'clock at night or sending book-long emails is important. So generally, what is live teacher support? Live teacher support is an opportunity for a teacher and a student to connect live using Big Blue Button. Students are going to be encouraged to come at the beginning of their period. We will go and be running an 8-period day schedule. So we'll be following that schedule. Teachers will be providing work for all of the classes for each day the classes meet on that 8-period day schedule, as they have been. However, teachers will be available on Mondays and Thursdays at the beginning of the periods for periods 1, 3, 5, and 7, the odd periods, to meet with their students and support them as they have questions. And on Tuesdays and Fridays for the even periods on days 2, 4, 6, and 8. This also would provide the opportunity on Wednesdays to have collaboration and catch-up days. And teachers will continue to support students on collaboration and catch-up days and post their live teacher support so students can get assistance with that. One of the things that I like about our schedule that some of the other schools that we looked at, we had a number of teachers at the high school level that were jumping directly into live streaming instruction, recording it, and posting it on Schoology, which I have to give a ton of credit to the teachers at the high school, because that is, they just really started receiving professional development on that. And we had a number of people that dove in right away. And so this schedule allows for a teacher that would elect to go and also answer questions if they wanted. And then if the questions are satisfied, they could go and live stream and record that and post it. So it provides a lot of flexibility on the teacher end. And that's one of the balances we tried to do when we tried to make sure that workflow worked for teachers that wanted to teach synchronously for all of their classes, but also provides an opportunity for students to really see their teachers, see their peers, and to get support face-to-face in the classes. And one of the things that we've done is really made sure that as we have been going through this unique new reality where we are no longer in brick and mortar schools, that we're trying to keep the same focus, which is having our teachers go through and make sure that the lessons that they're creating or the activities they're creating are concise, that they hit the most critical aspects of the curriculum, and that they're engaging. I think that we've got a ton of teachers in Radner that are just outstanding, and that they really truly care about their kids and their curriculum. And one of the first things that we heard from our faculty was, their concern about, are they going to be able to cover all the curriculum? I think fortunately when we had the PSSAs and the Keystones that were canceled, that really gave us reclaimed time, because when you're looking at these state standardized tests, we had large chunks of time in May and April that were tied up with us administering exams and prepping students for exams. So it gave us really some freedom to be able to have teachers focus on their instruction instead of focusing on administering tests or prepping for tests. So one of the things that we've asked teachers to do is really focus on their core curriculum and make sure that they're hitting the high points of this, so that way students are prepared for next year. Another goal for us is to make sure that our teachers continue, that we provide the professional development, that they're working through Big Blue Button and the synchronous learning. And again, I'll give a ton of credit to the teachers. I know at both the high school and the middle school level that we have a number of people that have jumped in with these Big Blue Button and the synchronous opportunities. We're going to continue to focus on asynchronous learning. We've got a number of teachers that are recording videos or using other unique platforms to go and provide learning to their students and continue to provide PD for that. And the last point is, to what Mr. Batchelor was saying, continuous improvement. It's our goal to continue to solicit feedback and use that feedback to modify practice and improve the quality and quantity of students' work that's being assigned. So we're really looking forward to, making sure that as we step forward, that we are continually improving over the next 8 weeks to provide the best education possible for our students.
And Dan, thank you. If I could just jump in too, just go along with that for a minute. You know, I think you could argue that what we have been doing since the first day this happened, and the teacher at the high school sent me a quote from a superintendent from another state, and I thought it was really fitting, that we've been doing emergency learning. You know, you know, if we were going to create an online school, we would be very different and much more purposeful and look at this whole process very differently. We have tried to take a perspective towards gradual, responsible, to be responsive to our teachers, to our students, to our parents and our community about how we can do this and how we can do this well. And we also needed to remove the roadblocks. The first week, we knew we had to get technology to kids that didn't have technology. The second week, we knew we had to get technology out to more of our families that were sharing one computer. You know, we are now in the process last week of getting better technology out to our teachers. So as we remove the roadblocks, you know, we will continue to grow, and that's what you're hearing from this. But there isn't some, you know, this is like the discussion we had with school start time or discussion with any other topic. There isn't some plan, you know, unfortunately, I don't have some plan in the drawer of the desk here that says this is what it's going to look like. My gut tells me from hearing from our parents that a balance of live classes and a balance of the videos. You know, Jenny mentioned before that a lot of our parents are saying the videos are working really well. When a teacher records a video themselves, posts it, that's working well. We don't want to disrupt what's working well, but we also are hearing from our parents, and I know board members can chime in. I don't know how much you're hearing. I'm hearing resoundingly from you know, our community that they want to see the teachers more. Their kids want to see each other, and the kids want at least opportunities to ask questions. So we're moving in that direction, and our teachers that are doing it are telling us it's wonderful. It's reminding them why they're in education. You know, it's kind of giving them a little bit of some sanity in this time as well, to look at their classroom of students and have that opportunity to be live with them, even if it's just answering questions and talking about the assignments. So I just want to thank Dan and Sean for the process that they've put together and for how we're moving forward.
Lydia, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah. So I had a number of thoughts that I wanted to share, and I think this might be a good time to do it, since Jenny and Sean and Dan have now had a chance to share their plans. I thought I'd offer a few thoughts. I know we got to wrap this up pretty soon, so I'll keep it brief, or as brief as I can. You know, as a college professor, I'm teaching online right now. I used to work for the largest online charter school in the country. So a lot of what is happening right now, we're doing. It's things that I'm pretty familiar with, and I just had a few thoughts that I wanted to offer. Ken just mentioned the first point that I had, which is that what we are doing right now could really be called emergency remote instruction. If you like acronyms, you could call it ERI. I just made it up basically, but the idea is that there are lots of different tools that are available, and those tools vary in how they used vary by subject matter, by grade level, and then each teacher uses those tools in different ways for different purposes. In a truly online learning and teaching system, you have a lot of time to learn how to do that. You have a summer and then in service over a year, and it's gradually brought in, and sometimes longer, right? So my point is that I would also just sort of echo what has already been said, which is that we do need to strike a balance between maintaining our standards, but being patient. And one thing that I've tried to emphasize to people who are interested is that our teachers are professionals. They have goals and learning objectives that they have put in plans to meet already. And so now it's just, okay, what tools are available in order to meet those goals? And I think every parent that is watching this or hears about this meeting should be very, very encouraged by what our professionals are doing for our kids in this district. From the superintendent to the administration to all the teachers, my impression is that we're doing an outstanding job. And I just wanted to really say that and to emphasize that. A couple other brief points here. So this is going to get easier for everybody. So it's going to get easier for the administration. It's going to get easier for the instructors. It's going to get easier for the students. Okay, so just because students are a little bit more facile with technology, most of them don't really have a lot of experience learning through online means. So that's something to just keep in mind, to be encouraged that the longer we do this, the better at this we're going to get. I had a few notes about synchronous versus asynchronous. Some people have talked about, well, whether we're going to be online in the fall. I have to say, this is my personal opinion. I know everyone these days is an armchair epidemiologist, and taking in different kinds of information. But the latest studies that I've been reading suggest that one possibility is that for about 20 weeks, there needs to be some kind of social distancing measures in place. So, and then further, over time, there have to be intervals of social distancing, and those are going to last through next year. So, all in all, this goes back to a really important point that Sean brought up, which is that our professionals are adding to their professional repertoire right now. They are learning skills that they will reuse for the rest of their careers. So, these are, I want to offer this perspective. A couple other things really quick. Another thing that was mentioned by Sean and Dan is that this is an opportunity for a different kind of knowledge sharing among teachers. And so this could mean, teachers that have a lot of experience with what is called pedagogical content knowledge in certain areas. In other words, they have a lot of experience in knowing how to teach a particular subject. They could help other teachers that have complementary knowledge. Teachers from different levels, different backgrounds can be working together to help each other out. So hopefully this gives you these points just give you a little bit of perspective on things. Again, I think for being so soon into this, it's kind of mind-blowing, in my opinion, how well we're doing. I understand the need to maintain standards. Live interaction is good, but also it's going to take time, and I also want to join the calls for patience. So hopefully those comments are helpful.
All right, thank you. I think that brings us to the second item on our agenda, which is the Radnor High School, the plans for grading and the final exams.
All right, and I will introduce Mrs. Kevius, principal of the high school, to talk through this.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for inviting me. I will try to make this as quick as I possibly can. So if you take a look at the handout that Mr. Bechtold has up on the screen, we spent a good amount of time trying to figure out how to take a look at both the third and fourth quarter. The third quarter was a concern because, we made that transition. We were in school for probably 75% of the actual quarter and then out for a few weeks. So we wanted to make sure that we were respectful of that transition, knowing what the teachers were going through, but also knowing what the transition and how stressful that was for the kids, just making that immediate shift from brick and mortar to online learning. And so we had that in the back of our minds. With the fourth quarter, going to online learning completely, and as Andrew said, it's a learning process. It's not going to happen overnight. We're going to continually get better, whether we're the educator or the student. It takes time, and so we wanted to be respectful of that. And we also wanted to be respectful of, all the stories that we're hearing about children in high school or students in high school who may have to take care of their younger siblings while their parents are at work, or families that are battling this virus or other things, and nobody really knows what's going on in anybody else's home. But we do know that those challenges are out there. And so we wanted to make sure that we were respectful of both those things. We also really wanted to be cognizant of, what the effect of our transcripts and our grades from the third and fourth quarter and our final grades would have for our students, particularly our rising seniors. So we asked Mr. Lemon, who is our school counseling department chair, to reach out to different colleges and universities. And we looked at, large versus small, private versus public, top tier, middle tier, safety schools, for all of our students to really get a good grasp and understanding of how colleges and universities would look at grades from this time period. And I think the message that we heard was really consistent. The message was that, we needed to be clear and communicate how these grades were calculated, whether that was through the transcript itself or whether that was, in our school profile. But they also wanted to let us know that they would be flexible and understanding about, all of the challenges that our students are coming up against in this time. They did. Sure.
Can I just jump in just for a minute?
Yeah,
I'm sorry to
absolutely.
interrupt you. I'm just looking at the time and looking at the reality that we do have a hard stop because we have another committee meeting starting at 5:30 and some of the board members are on that committee.
Okay.
What's left on this agenda is we have this item. This does not require board action. This is an update to the board on what we're doing with the fourth quarter and final exam information with the high school. We also have a discussion about graduation. And Dan, what else is left on the agenda for curriculum?
We also have, we've got calendar.
We also got the calendar.
Okay, so could I suggest that, we have the luxury of the business meeting next week, and that why don't we use the business meeting to have, PT, Mrs. Kepkes, give a quick update on this piece that we have with grades at the high school. We could use the business meeting to talk about the calendar and where we are with the calendar as well. And we could also use it to talk about graduation. I can tell you right now, for people who are tuning in, we don't have a definitive plan right now for graduation. We are looking at all the options right now, and we're also trying to be smart about not limiting ourselves. If the rules and conditions change, we want to be able to be, flexible and respond to those rules. If the rules and regulations and what the mitigations that are in place now to mitigate the spread are still in place throughout the summer, obviously our plan for that has to respond to in that way. So would it make sense, Dan, if we took, and Lydia, could we take these 3 items and just bring them to the business meeting? Would that be okay?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine if that's how you want to play it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah.
I think that would be best. I'm sorry, PT. I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't mean to cut you
Mr. Bachelor, I had some really exciting plans next week. I was going out dancing and dinner.
Yeah. I kind of assumed you might not have anything next Tuesday night. So is that okay with the rest of the committee?
Totally fine.
We are unfortunately up against a hard stop. We had public comment in the beginning. Michael, were there a lot of questions for public comment in this committee meeting?
I have gotten no questions.
Okay, good.
Okay, and so we don't need to do anything about the calendar to put it on the business agenda?
Well, we could talk about that. We may want to make a vote on the calendar, and we need to have some discussion still about that. So I think it's actually going to be appropriate to have that discussion with the full board. So we can certainly have someone, even though it might not be on the agenda as an official motion, somebody could certainly make a motion to do that, or we could discuss options that we approve in May as well. We could do either.
Good, so we'll move the next 3 items into next week.
That would be, if that makes sense, that would be great.
Okay, good.
Go ahead, Lydia.
I was going to say, are we ready for new business, or did you have something else? Okay, is there any new business? All right, so I believe we are adjourning this curriculum committee meeting for April 22nd.
All right, and anybody tuning in, we're doing separate meetings. So our facilities meeting is set to start 1 minute ago, or actually, depending which clock I look at, set to start now. So facilities will start in just a couple of minutes. We'll get that link up and running. So we'll turn off